Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 62 of the English with Kirsty podcast. This week I have another interview for you. I'm talking to Christina from Germany about language exchanges, and Christina's just come back from meeting one of her language exchanges on holiday. So we're going to talk about that and some of her other tips and what she's learned through her various language exchanges, because she has quite a number of language exchange partners. So be sure to check Christina out, especially if you're a German speaker. She has a blog and a book, and I'll put all the links on the show notes page, so check those out. I'll also add an article that I wrote about how to get the best out of language exchanges. If you haven't seen that, then you might like to have a look at that as well. And I hope you enjoy the interview, and I'd be interested to know your experiences with language exchange partners. So if you would like to tell me about those, then the show notes page for this episode is www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 62. So I hope you enjoy the interview, and I'll be back again next week. Have a good week and have fun learning English. Hi, thank you for coming on the podcast. It's really good that you've been able to do this, and I know that you have experience with language partners, so I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Maybe you could just start by telling me about a couple of your language tandem partners and how you found them, where you found them, that kind of thing.
Hi, Kirsty. Thanks for your invitation. Yes, I've had language tandems for more than 10 years now. In the past, I found them with the help of the University of Bochum. They run a tandem service, which is very helpful. They've got an internet address where I can send you the link, and you can put the link into your blog or wherever, into the show notes if you want.
Okay, yeah, that'd be
And many of these language partners now are good friends. For example, Marie in France and Luigi in Italy. Now it's even easier, and I found some very interesting people on italki. Now I use italki all day long practically. My language tandems at the moment are Carlos, a guy from Valencia in Spain, Estrella from Peru, and Daniel, a guy from Barcelona for Spanish and German. Marco is a guy from Italy for the language combination Italian and German. Xavier and Sandra both are from Switzerland and are my French-German language partners. And occasionally I talk to Dimpner in Mexico, but not on a regular basis. So that's all for the moment.
Oh, that's good.
It's always a bit of a problem. It's a time question, because language tandems require time.
Yeah, and I think it's good to do what you've done. I generally advise people to do that as well, so to have more than one, because then you're not waiting until one person has time. You've got several, so if somebody's busy, you can talk to someone else, or you can, sometimes they only last for a few weeks or months, and then the other person maybe doesn't have time. So it's good to have a few people with whom you can speak in each language.
That's it. That's one of my tips.
Oh, sorry, that's one of your tips. So how does it work? Do you have like a plan of something you do every week, or do you have general conversation, or how do you structure your language tandems?
It depends on the partner. Mostly we meet on Skype. Carlos, Daniel, Marco and Xavier are also in my WhatsApp list, so it's easy to send photos, short messages from time to time, which makes learning a bit more a daily habit. With Xavier, I have a set schedule every Friday at 7:30 in the morning. One week German, 1 week French.
That's
and the appointments are agreed on quite spontaneously, so we decide from 1 week to the other on appointments. We chat about general topics, and occasionally some pronunciation lessons or grammar lessons are included. Mistakes, however, are mostly corrected in the written Skype chat in order not to interrupt the partner. That's sometimes a problem, because when you interrupt a partner very often, the conversation is not fluent anymore, and the other person doesn't like to talk to you anymore. And so we agreed to correct in a written way, which is quite useful, because I personally can write the correct versions in my vocab training program too. And that's very easy and useful.
And you have a record as well. You can look back and see what was corrected and then learn for next time. Yeah, that's a good tip. Have you met any of your tandem partners in real life, or is it just on Skype?
I've already met some of my language partners. I've already been to France, Italy and Spain to see Luigi, Marie, Xavier and Carlos. Luigi lives in Munich now, so we see each other quite often. And Marie lives 50 kilometers away from my daughter, so we can meet sometimes. That's quite easy. So I meet my daughter and then I meet Marie at the same time. Last year in October, I was in Freiburg to see my daughter, and it was a great coincidence that Xavier from Switzerland was in Freiburg too. And so we met and spent the afternoon together. And last weekend, I was in Valencia with my husband to see Carlos and his family. I have been talking with Carlos on Skype for more or less 1 year now, and we met on italki. And last weekend, we met in person for the first time and spent 3 days together, and it was great. And I suppose I've got a whole Spanish family as my new friends now, because his parents were also very friendly, interesting. They talked to me and they were quite patient with my Spanish.
That's really good, because it's not just one language partner, it's a whole group of them.
I've got the whole family as language partners now.
What kind of things did you do during your time together?
Well, we went to the Ciudad de las Ciencias, which is a very modern part of Valencia. They showed us the rice fields. They showed us the sea, the Albufera, which is a lake outside of Valencia. They showed us the historical center of the city. We ate paella. We went to another Spanish family. We went to Carlos' home to meet the rest of the family, because Carlos also has a little brother. And so we slept only 5 hours per night, and the rest we were on the road, so to speak.
Oh, so it sounds like a lot of fun.
A heavy program, but it was so interesting and great.
So you obviously really you feel that was a really good experience, but how would you say you benefit from the language tandem itself? What have you learned, and how does it help you with your language learning?
So I love practicing my languages, of course. That's one benefit. You can practice your languages, but the biggest benefit, in my opinion, is that you get to know new people all over the world, and that you can make friends. This broadens your horizon and increases your motivation to learn, because you don't learn only a language for yourself, but you learn a language for Carlos, for Xavier, for Marie, and all for the other great people in the world. And you've always got anybody to ask if you have problems with a structure or a word or an expression or something else. There is always somebody you can ask. And I think that these are the advantages.
I think it brings it to life, doesn't it? It's not just learning for going through a book, but you can have fun at the same time. And that's, I often say to people, language learning should be fun. It shouldn't just be an activity that you have to do. Maybe some people have to for work, but if you can make it enjoyable, it will really help you in terms of motivation.
That's it. And you don't have to sit at the desk all the time doing grammar exercises. So different kind of learning, and you learn very, very much by doing so. Yeah.
And so you've obviously got a lot of experience in this. You've got these different language partners and you've been doing it for a while. Finally, are there any tips that you would give other people who are either who want to improve their language learning experience, or maybe who are looking for a new language tandem partner?
So the first tip is try out different people. I was lucky to find Carlos and all the other people, but there were also many partners who turned out not to be the right choice for me. You should take into consideration that partners from other continents live in a different time zone. I had this experience with South America, and sometimes it was difficult to agree on an appointment because 8 hours of time difference was a bit tricky sometimes. I would always opt for several partners in one language. So, for example, Carlos, Daniel, and Carlotta, for example, because you can talk to somebody even if your preferred partner doesn't have time. So you are not so dependent on one partner. I also think it's a good idea to confirm the agreed times to avoid misunderstandings. And the most important point, however, is be open-minded and don't be afraid of speaking. Your partner definitely has the same problems in your mother tongue and knows exactly how you feel. And I think language tandems are one of the best ways to learn a language and to make new friends. So don't panic.
Yeah, I think that's true, because you've both got the same goals. You both want to improve. It's not like something like if you're in a meeting at work or something, then you feel a bit nervous speaking in front of your colleagues. With a language tandem partner, you're both trying to learn, and you'll probably both make mistakes, and that's okay. It's a really good way to improve your speaking skills when no one else is listening or looking apart from someone who wants to learn as well. So I think I advise people, if they can, to find some language tandem partners, because it's a really good way. Sometimes you don't even think that you're learning. If you're talking about something that you both find interesting or having fun, then it doesn't feel like you're actually learning, even though you are, and you will pick up new words and learn more about how the other person speaks, and be able to learn from them when you hear them speaking their native language as well.
And what we also do is we send little videos. For example, we find on YouTube or anywhere else in the net. We send the videos to each other and watch them together and talk about them. So you can also share interesting material, for example. And that's also a good idea for learning, to share interesting material, to take interesting articles from newspapers, to talk about them, all these things, which makes learning really interesting and stimulating.
Yeah, I totally agree. So thank you for that. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think that's all.
Okay, well, thank you for your tips and for letting us know about your experiences. I will put further information about Christina and the photo and some links so you can find out more about her on the show notes page. And yeah, thank you for speaking to us today.
Thanks for inviting me, Kirsty. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.